Hello there. Once again, it's Anton from Anton Obey. Welcome to the collection room. Thank you guys for joining me on another Sunday morning as we go through some short boxes of comic books. It's so I've been doing for a few weeks now, a few months now actually. I think the first year I started actually, and we're getting through them. I don't have a ton of short boxes left, but on to the one we have today. We're abandoning long boxes completely. They're just too awkward. They take up a weird space when you have to set them out away from a wall. It takes up a lot of room. So I've been moving to short boxes. They're easier to carry. I have a bad back. I don't want to deal with that anymore. And so we're going to go through and see what's in this box. And starting off, looks like, dun dun dun, an IDW title. Now, I don't really care for IDW titles at all, but I do love me some Ninja Turtles. And I can tell, I've tried to get into these, I could not. But these are ones I picked up from an Ollie's. If you guys know what Ollie's are, they're like a discount house. Some of these are like trade thickness, some of them are just issue thickness. And I kind of went out on a limb and bought them. Usually, if your comics are at Ollie's, they're probably not the best because they've been overproduced and then they're being like discount sold is essentially the deal. Got this comic. It's the 5th Turtle, Jennika, not Venus de Milo, I guess. I don't know. It's IDW, who cares? But yeah, I couldn't really get into these, but I did have them and they were super cheap. And I do love buying stuff at Ollie's, even though, you know, they do have a reputation for selling stuff that just won't sell anywhere. They get mass market price drops and stuff, but I have enjoyed them. Picked up this, actually, a long time ago. This was even before presidency. This is made by a company called Blue Water Comics. Blue Water Comics makes books about everybody. I think the same time I bought that Donald Trump, I bought a Demi Lovato. Because I'm a big Demi Lovato fan back in the day. Years ago, before she went totally crazy. But yeah, they actually did. They had like everybody. I just grabbed kind of two, but kind of an interesting comic book company. They just make that stuff. This, I've told you guys, I buy one of these every time I see one. That's why there seems to be one in every box. New Teen Titans 93, the issue where Starfire poses for a sexy magazine or something. Lost Planet, this is an Eclipse title that I thought looked really good that I picked up a few years ago. I mean, just look at some of the stuff going on. Doesn't it look awesome? Looks like a really interesting title. And I am struggling to remember if I even liked it. Certainly the title and certainly the covers were awesome. So that's cool. An X-Files trade. What is it? Night Lights? Yeah, I think I got it at a thrift store for like nothing. Groom Lake, another X-Files trade. Thought that was pretty cool. Spectacular Spider-Man issue 64. I believe it's the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger. Two comic book characters that were one of my favorite. Cloak and Dagger series. I absolutely loved it back in the day, and I bought every series I could find of them. They had a really cool vibe to them. Was never a big Spider-Man reader, but always that. The Rogue miniseries, which I've touched on a couple of times in different videos. One of my favorite Marvel miniseries of all time. Just always was a big Rogue fan. She was always one of my favorites. And the art style in this series pieced her together so well. I loved it. The Storm series had beautiful covers, but never left an impact with me like the Rogue, the Gambit, the Bishop series. Oh, the Bishop series is good. But Storm did have herself a nice deluxe cover chrome miniseries. X-Force 117. This is the Michael Allred, I think the start of the Michael Allred title. And these are amazing. I really loved these. So the whole team dies several times throughout the book, and of course many of the characters die. Wait a minute. Not 117 was not the first one. 116 was the first one. These got put out of order. I'm going to fix that and put them in order. Yeah, this whole team, I think, dies immediately and they get a new team. But I think it's funny because you go to buy X-Force, you've been reading X-Force, and suddenly it looks like this. Not like it did. And they're like, well, X-Force didn't copyright the name, so this other team stole the name and ran with it, and, you know, just Cable and his team were out. Their name was taken over, and so they couldn't do anything. And this series ran, let's see, how far did it run? I don't remember. We'll get there. I just love the art. Michael Allred stuff. That's not a Michael Allred cover, but most of these are. The way he draws comics is, it's almost like an Archie style for the comic, and it's fantastic. It is literally fantastic. I just love them. Issue 28. 29, I believe, is the last one, and I think this team dies again. So it's like team dies, resets. And if you've never read any of these, they're fantastic because it's just a media orchestrated team to be celebrities and superheroes at the same time. So they not only have the pressures of battles, they have pressures of interviews and all this other stuff. It's a crazy book, absolutely crazy. But it flips to being called X-Statix. X-Force, I think, goes back to being just regular X-Force name. And X-Statix plugs along for a while. I don't know how popular it was in the day. Like, I don't know. It's hard to gauge what books were doing back at this time period. There wasn't a lot of like channels being made about comics. Excuse me. I don't remember Wizard being around or anything like that, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But I was lucky enough to pick up most of these in bargain bins, so maybe they weren't that popular. I thought they were fantastic and brilliant, and I bought these and just thought they were great. They're still in plastic bags, which is kind of crazy. A lot of times as I go through this stuff, I've been checking the bags and see if they need replaced, and if they do, I just take them off. I don't even buy bags anymore. But you'd be surprised how many of these that I didn't bag and board, but I'll pull them out and the backboard is in backwards, eating the back of the comic. Yeah, comic book stores did that, not me. Comic book stores did that. Put the cardboard in backwards, the acid-free side not touching the comic, and it just blows your mind. You'll pull it off and you can read that comic off the back of that board because it's just burnt off into it. Why they do that? They don't know what they're doing. It's like, needs to coffee. Anyway, not a lot of variety. It's a lot of X-Statix. A lot of X-Statix. So, how do you put this? X-Statix took like what was popular and like going on in pop culture in the area, not a parody, but like a commentary. And so at a time when all other comic books were doing things like this and taking themselves seriously, and it sucked, Ecstatics was doing it, taking themselves seriously, yet also portraying this like horrible, crappy, dark side of fame and popularity and social issues and everything like that. I really like the book. It's just me. Then we get to, it looks like Alpha Flight. All Alpha Flights. So it took me, I think, about a year or so to go through, and this is the box where they all wound up, it looks like, to go through the entire original Alpha Flight series, one issue at a time, page by page. I put that in I did 4 issues of video, broke down some of the different eras as best as I can, just as somebody who is a fan, who's read the series a couple of times, and who's owned the series like 3 times now. Bought it, sold it, bought it, sold it. But if you ever want to go through and check out Alpha Flight, every single page of it, how the art changes, how the story changes, how the writers change, how much Marvel cares about it changes, you can check those out. There's a bunch of videos because we went through 4 issues at a time, and they're all in a playlist, and you can see Alpha Flight page by page if you so desire to, and if you have some time, because it does take a while to go through every issue of Alpha Flight. First big series I ever really loved and was interested in and sought to get all of. The first big complete run, and I did it almost all out of quarter bins. I found quarter bin, and I found Alpha Flights everywhere. And I was maybe 20, maybe 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there, going to quarter bins in the 90s and early 2000s, snagging every Alpha Flight I could, had a checklist so I knew which ones I needed and which ones I didn't. And actually, I believe that's the one I think cost me the most, if I remember right. Or no, it was issue 12. I had to pay full price at a comic book store, $4.50, and I remember thinking, are you kidding me? But it was the last issue I needed. Since then, I sold the series, and then I was like, man, I miss Alpha Flight. I mean, it's a lame book, but then I was like, I miss it, so I got it again. Tracked it down, bought it in a couple of pieces, put it all together, no problem. Times hit hard, and I ended up selling tons of almost all my comics again, through a divorce. And then I wanted my Alpha Flights back again. And a friend of mine, Scott, hooked me up with almost the whole series. And then I bought another lot that finished out the other half of the series. So I do have a lot of extra Alpha Flights, but pieced this together. I think I still wound up being like a couple issues short, and my local comic book store had the 4 issues I needed, and they were $3 a piece. So I finished out and got this. This is one of my favorite eras right there. I like that era. Diamond Lil was lots of fun. But yeah, pieced together a full run of Alpha Flight once again. The Hulk. Issue 30. But yeah, I mean, you think about it, to backtrack 130 issues, and to be able to do it all in the quarter. This is both great and terrible issue. Great because Heather finally dons the Vindicator suit. Terrible because the whole Puck backstory falls apart and becomes lame. But yeah, 130 issues. And I remember that was like the pinnacle of my achievement in comic book collecting, was I had all 130 issues. And I know from there, I did the same thing with the old Guardians of the Galaxy, the year 3000 ones. Those were great. Tracked down all 63, whatever issues there was of that. also in quarter bins. Very, very pleased with myself. Then I moved on to New Warriors. Finding every issue of New Warriors in quarter bins. Every issue of Dazzler in quarter bins. It's crazy, but they were there. And you could just get them all. The only thing you never saw in quarter bins was X-Men stuff. Never any X-Men stuff. Never any big key like Justice League, Batman, Superman. No X titles were ever in there. So I really did glom onto some of the peripheral titles. That was where I met Cloak and Dagger. And that's why I got all the Cloak and Dagger comics. Once again, I was able to build them entirely, almost entirely, out of discount bins from comic book shops, where they had been sitting in there collecting dust for 15 to 20 years at that point, and nobody wanted them. And the thing is, now, if I go to a discount bin, I am not going to see an issue of Cloak and Dagger in there, or an issue of Alpha Flight, probably, at all. These things seem to have gotten value somehow. The only thing I've seen in bargain bins has been older DC titles, which is why I've been picking them up, because they still have that vibe of a book from the same era, yet no one sees the value in. And that's kind of amazing to me. It's also amazing that some of these titles have gone up so much. New Warriors have gone up so much. They're highly collectible now. Why? They never made any great lasting impact in the Marvel Universe. Same way with Dazzler. Like the Dazzler series, that's insane. Like how much people want for a full 1 through 40 of Dazzler. Seriously, guys. I think it's 1 through 40. Maybe it's 45 or something. But anyway, I never did rebuild my Guardians of the Galaxy set because of the film popularity. That's probably not going to happen. I'm not going to spend the money on them. I do pick them up cheap every now and then when I see them. But I was able to rebuild my Alpha Flight collection, and that makes me pretty happy. And my Cloak and Dagger collection, I was able to rebuild because that's much smaller. Other than that, it's been different stuff to collect. No longer do I have a massive assortment of Marvel and DC titles that are mainstream. If I do have Marvel and DC stuff, it's stuff like Alpha Flight. It's stuff like Legion of Superheroes, Teen Titans. Stuff that, oddly enough, isn't very expensive. I've been able to pick up tons of Barbarian titles, which I really enjoy. Which during this time period, Marvel didn't seem to be making a whole lot. But DC was. Anyway, that's been most of my videos all week, has been covering stuff like that. Issue 70, yeah. But yeah, if you're interested in plowing through all of Alpha Flight, go for it. It goes through different phases. It really does. The Byrne era, and I know a lot of people hate this, but I did not really care for the John Byrne part of it. I kept waiting for something to happen. Don't get me wrong, the art's good, the storytelling is good, but it is a drag. It's a slog. Nothing's happening. It just goes on like that and goes on like that. And the biggest, you can't have drama without confrontation. The only confrontation they ever have is like emotional differences, personality differences between each other. Well, that's interesting. Now let us do something in the midst of that, overcome that. No, it just drags. They just don't get along, and then they don't accomplish anything either. And so they're very frustrating to read. And as soon as John Byrne gets out, then you get a bunch of hack writers that come in with no direction or anything like that for a long time. And it stays bad through most of the series. You get later up into the higher numbers, it starts to at least get a plan. But I also always complain that every time you get a big story arc villain build up, they always have to bring in some other superhero team. The Fantastic Four, the X-Men, X-Factor, something like that has to join them and help. Like, they never just deal with anything on their own. It's funny to think of a series like this ever making it today. It wouldn't happen. The way people collect comics and the way comics are sold these days, I don't even get it. I didn't get it when I was younger. Certainly don't get it now. That's why I guess my comic collecting will probably always be more relegated to the bargain bin side of things. Simply because, I mean, I can't understand people paying $6, $7 a piece for new issues. There's even new comics like Femforce that I love, but it's really hard to spend, you know, by the time I get shipping, $10 an issue on a comic. It's rough. Like, that means I'm buying one comic a month. I'm not gonna buy. Back in this time period, and I would be collecting, like, there was lots of guys buying comics, getting 10, 15 different titles a month. What is what they collected, and they could afford it all because they were only $1.50 an issue, $2 an issue. So I could buy 15 titles, $30 a month. That's not killer, and I could collect them new. $30 a month now, I get what? Maybe 2-3 titles at most. Seems like shit's so expensive. It's crazy. I miss newsprint. I miss cheaper prices. I miss comics being readable and collectible. I miss kids reading them. You know, kids used to collect comics. Now I don't even know what collects comics. I know for a time it was all dudes in their 40s collecting comics. But every time I go to a comic book store, that's not what I see in there now. I don't even know what I see in there. Most of the time there's nobody else in there. So I don't know who's buying comics these days. But the titles I'm seeing on the shelf don't look like they're for kids. Now I sound like an old man. And I guess when it comes to comic books, I am an old man. Because I look at it and I just start to grumble and think, why can't it be the way it used to be? And if that isn't an old man take on it, I don't know what it is. I'd apologize for it, but I'm not really sorry. As I wind down through this full set of Alpha Flights that I've looked at so many times in my life, makes you just feel older. The Wrecking Crew is back, but they're almost out of time because this series is getting gone. Issue 120. Got Spider-Man. Like I said, you can't have a story closure without another team showing up to do it. $123. My last 4 issues are not in this box. And I get one annual. That's all that's in here. That means I got Alpha Flights in some other box and it's mixed up. How annoying. Anyway, that's a full box, guys. That's the lid. I gotta go find Alpha Flights. At least they're in my own collection instead of like at a store somewhere. But anyway, I appreciate you guys spending any time with me on a Sunday morning. Going through some comics. Anyway, have a good week. Remember to keep collecting fun. Don't let it depress you. Don't let it stress you. Don't go broke doing it. don't always be chasing the next newest thing. Collect what you want, enjoy it, and enjoy it in the way that you want to enjoy it, not like slabbed, hanging on a wall with lights on it. If that's not your thing, don't do it that way. Just enjoy comics. Anyway, that's my story. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.